The product review for this video is sponsored by Hygger Aquarium, the think tank for your tank. Hey, how you doing, Reefers? I'm Reefer Matt, and today's video is on lighting. I'm also doing a review on this Hygger Marine 1 Coral Reef light. It is this light right here. We'll take a look at that light, and I'm also going to put these coral on the rocks and where they're going to go, and we'll do a little power mapping and see how it turns out. Let's have a look. All right, here's our 20-gallon Nano tank, and there's the coral that we're going to put on the rocks today. I just added a rock in the middle there for this GSP right here, so we'll have a little GSP island. That'll be pretty cool, huh? So while we're doing that, we're going to have a look at this light. This is the Hygger Marine 1 Coral Reef light. This is the 35-watt version. And we're going to take a look at it with the power meter and see how it does after we place these coral. Now what I'm thinking for placements is the middle of the rocks and lower. And maybe someday we'll put some SPS at the top, but I don't want to do that starting off because this is a beginner tank. And we're going to start off with beginner corals and we're going to work our way up. So what we have to put in the tank today, we have our green star polyps here. Some Duncans, some star polyps, some candy cane coral, that is the kryptonite version, kryptonite green. And we have a little mix of zoas here. We have some Fruit Loops and some Tutti Fruities. And over here we have some scrambled egg zoas. It looks like there's some Tutti Fruities on the bottom there too. Those things have been growing a lot. And they're all on my Reefer Matte magnetic frag rack, and we'll talk about that later. So what we're going to do to start is I'm going to put the camera up so we can get a look at where we're going to put these coral and how they're going to do underneath this light. All right, first off, taking a look at the size of this light, just so you know, it's about 21.5 inches long. So it's a pretty decent size, and we're going to see if it's all this tank needs as far as light intensity goes. But as far as overall length, it looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to try to get everything in frame for you here. Going through the controller, it has a few different options on it as far as spectrum. Right now I have it on the coral spectrum. To start, there's a white light if you want to clean the tank or you just happen to like white light, you can turn that on, but I do not recommend that for coral. That's more of a temporary light. There's also another spectrum that has a fish on it. This one's sort of a mix. Back in the day they had halides that were like 10K or 12K. It's probably closer to that. This may do okay for coral, but I personally don't like this spectrum. What I prefer is this next one here. It's bluer. And I know that it has more of that blue spectrum for the coral. And then there's also a midnight one as well. This has a ramp up and down, and it will adjust between whatever spectrum you set and the moonlight. So like I said, I like to go with the coral one. And then next we have our timer function. Now with this timer function, if you notice, there's no display on this. You cannot program a time on this. So you have to plug this light in at the time of the day that you want to start your schedule. So the way you do that is you turn your light on. We're going to turn it on. Turn on your spectrum. Like I said, I prefer the coral spectrum. And then you're going to set your time. So if you want this to start at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're going to have to turn this on at 9 o'clock in the morning and hit however many hours you want. That's 3, 6, 9, and 12. And then what it's going to do is it's going to slowly ramp up from a moonlight to the daylight and then back down to a moonlight again when it goes to turn off. And then you also have your intensity function here, which you can adjust the intensity up and down. And the way you do that is you bypass your timer, you go back here to your spectrum again, and you can adjust that. You kind of got to count as you're doing it, because sometimes you might start going back on the other end and you'll be going back down. So a nice feature about this light is it has a built-in splash guard here. So that'll help protect the LEDs underneath. Just keep in mind that this light is made for certain size tanks. And this is all the way over right now. And this is on a 20 gallon. And as you can see, it's not quite halfway over. So if you have a bigger tank and you're thinking about putting this light on there, just keep that in mind, that that's it. That's all it's got as far as coming over this way. Now, as far as height, I still have a lot more adjustment to go, but I like it right there. It's about 8 inches. All right, before we place the coral, I'm going to measure the height of the light off of the water. I estimated 8 inches, but it's really looking like 6. So we use that as a reference when we go to do the power meter later. I have transition glasses that change into sunglasses under ultraviolet light, and I can show you underneath this light, and they change pretty quick too. See how my glasses are getting dark? That's how you know that there's UV in this light. All right, now that I have my sunglasses on, let's place some of these coral. I'm going to start with the green star polyps, or GSP, and we're going to put them on this rock. What I use for that is just gel super glue. Pick whatever your favorite brand is. I just use the cheap Dollar Tree stuff. Get like 2 tubes for $1.25. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put about a pea-size dab of glue on the bottom of the frag. Now I'm going to touch it, and then you're going to see all the polyps close up. See that? And then underneath, it's just a purple mat. So that's how you can tell later on. So what I also like to do is cut this stem off and just glue the flat part down there. If you don't have bone cutters yet, you can just glue it with the stem in there and just find a hole to do that. But I like snipping these off with bone cutters. So I can't cut it exactly where I'm at right now because I have a tank next to me, but I'll explain it to you how to do it, and then I'm going to do it off camera here. So the way you do it is you get your bone cutters maybe 1/3 to 1/2 of the way up on the tip, just like that. Point this away from something that you don't want to hit, like glass, a person, because this will come shooting out when you squeeze. So I'm going to turn around, pop it off, and then we'll glue this frag in. All right, I got my frag. I cut off the stem. Now I'm going to put a pea-size dab of glue just like that. Sometimes you might have to put a little more. Sometimes the glue gets fussy. Maybe I'll put a little more just right there. And now we're going to find a spot on our rock to put it on. All right, I found a spot on the rock, and I'm going to place the coral. So the way you do it, put it in there and give it a little twist. When you push it down, a little twist, and then hold it in place. And do that for about 10-20 seconds, and it should be pretty good. Sometimes it may come off and you'll have to reapply the glue. That's okay. All right, just like that. All right, we can see our Hygger light up there doing a good job so far. All right, now for the fun part. We got our corals placed. Now we're going to check out the intensity of the light. I have a power meter here. This is the Apogee MQ510. So this is a real deal power meter. And we're going to see what the numbers are. Now just keep in mind that par is a relative number. It's not something that you need to nail down with a certain specific number. It's something that you want to get a range of, just like anything else. All right, so to start, like I said, this light is 6 inches off the water. This is on a 20-gallon aquarium. It's a 20-gallon long. So I'm going to try the bottom first and see where I'm at. So on the very bottom, you can see that it's at 80. So that's pretty good. Right where our GSP is, it's getting 80. Over here at our Duncans, around the same. We're at 73. Over here by our clove polyps, we're at 50. That's pretty good for clove polyps. Up here at our candy cane, we're at 90. That's about what I wanted. I wanted around 100 for that. And then down here by our zoas, we're at 75. And I also put some zoas back here behind the rock. And those are about 70 as well, 60 to 70. So overall, not too bad as far as coral placement. This isn't a light that you're going to put SPS on all over the tank. If anything, it would be towards the top. But this is for a beginner tank. So you can see at the very top of the rock, I'm at around 100 there. So it can get up to 100 par. And that's about as high as it's going to go. There's 130 for this tank. And this elevation too. It can always move the light down and get more intensity if I wanted to. But I like this. I like where it's at. And it's a pretty good even spread too. I'm getting 80 over here in the middle. And I'm getting around 60, 55 to 60 over here on the very end. So that's a pretty good spread. That's why I like these lights that are like a bar. And over here, in this dark corner, 38 to 40, that'd be a good spot for a chalice. So maybe someday we'll put a chalice over there. But I'm liking what I'm seeing with this light. And it looks like it'll grow these coral with no problem. And just in case you're curious about the fish spectrum, which is sort of a mix between the blue and the white, it's about the same, honestly. Look at that. That's weird. You'd think it'd be more, but it's the same. So I guess that's pretty good for consistency. So really, I guess it's up to you as far as if you want the whiter spectrum or if you want the really blue spectrum to make the corals pop. This light can do both. So if you want to have a look at the Hygger Marine 1 Coral Reef Light for yourself, I'll put a link right here and also in the description. Note that I am a Hygger and an Amazon affiliate. I'm going to put a link for both, and I appreciate any commissions that you guys send my way. And if you go onto the Hygger website and use the code ReeferMatt, you can save 10%. Hey, if you're new to this channel and you never heard of ReeferMatt, head on over to reefermatt.net and check out everything that's available to you on there. I do product reviews, do reefing videos, and pretty soon I'll have a store for selling my 3D printed frag racks. So head on over to reefermatt.net and check it out. If you want to check out all the other videos in this series, I'll put a link right here. I'm Reefer Matt. Thank you for watching and happy reefing.